Man, there's just a lot I want to say, and I don't have it. I don't have it fully organized in my head, so I'm just gonna flow with it. I'll try to organize it as best as I can. But I've been giving this Lady Boulay conversation more thought. And on a serious note, and this has been said before, that if black women were more honest about what they actually wanted, a lot of these conversations that we're having online could have been averted. The nasty conversations, the gender warring, the name calling, and all the ad hominem attacks and everything. All that could have been avoided. But there's certain people that they're rooting for their side, and they don't want to be truthful about what they're really on or what they're really about. And sometimes it's not even the person's fault. It's just they didn't know, they didn't have the information, and I can definitely say that on the part of black men. I wish that black women were honest about what they want, but even as I throw that statement up there, I recognize that there's different factions of black women, and where you might have a woman who actually does want the community fixed, you have another woman who's like Aisha K. Faines, RIP, who wants power. Right? If you go to her website, it says it right in there. Wants women to be able to, operate on their own terms. Right? And even when it comes to women, like, just to even speak on the lack of honesty that women will put forth when asked, like, okay, what do you want? Like, I go back to the grapevine when Carl asked Aisha K. Faines, where he said to her, and he didn't ask her, but he said to her, he's like, well, sounds to me like you need to be what a subordinate do. And she snapped. I don't date nothing but powerful men. It's like, but it's so saith the woman who wants power. And again, like, this is where the sort of bait and switch comes into play. Where again, yeah, I'm sure she wants to date a man that has power that she can manipulate and ultimately turn into a situation where she can, take the resources and go off and do whatever that she wants to do. I forget I forget who the actress was, but it was like an actress that she cited that she looked up to, who was a woman who basically became wealthy off of her husband. I forget who was it. Was it Coco Chanel? Maybe not an actress, but yeah, I don't know if it was Coco Chanel. But anyway, this sort of get with a powerful man, divorce the powerful man, take his resources and assets, and then go run off and do whatever the hell you want to do. And this is something that men have to be aware of, and men should speak out against it. Too often you get these women that they want to deny that there's women out here who are like that. They want to downplay that. And then you end up with a man addressing one group of women and then another group of women that is not that group of women coming in and defending that group of women. You see, as I've said before, I think black men do a much better job at separating themselves because, educated lames and pookies, they have contempt for each other. Women, on the other hand, act like they're all one harmonious group. And you see how things fall apart even when you get to, childless women and single mothers. Get them in a room and have a conversation. Those childless women do not like the idea of, women with kids double dipping. But then you have that whole sort of, sisterhood. You can't go against the sisterhood. What about her happiness? What about her course correction? All that other stuff. And if you look at a lot of the voices online, pay very close attention to whether the woman is, a single mother or whether she, is childless. And there's certain conversations that yeah, the sisterhood, the black women, they want to come through and support each other, but when a childless woman speaks, and the childless woman is like, hey, I got more value than you, or if a woman with children hears that, and or even feels that, she doesn't have to hear it, feel it, You know what I mean? That's where, some of the infighting comes in for them. So, we got to acknowledge that there's different factions, but, I noticed that a lot of women can't even acknowledge that there's different factions. I say there's black women out here who literally want power. Even Lady Boulay in her own video said there's women who don't want to get married. I'm like, yeah, exactly. They don't want to get married. And then you also have women who want to get married, but they want to get married on their terms. Why is that so? Why is that like sacrilegious to say? I don't understand that. We can't have a real conversation if people are just going to deny that these factions exist. They want to act like, all black women are just victims to the evil black patriarchy and they're all a bunch of fainting Victorian virgins from the 1880s. Stop that. But anyway, moving the conversation forward, what I wanted to talk about is you know, the reason why I came online and kind of like where things have gone and the miscommunication and misunderstanding of like even what's currently going on. Okay. When I came online, not only was there the part about defending black men because I hated all of these, stereotypes and rumors and just all this, like even the whole issue of women only dealing with, really a small segment of the black male population. Women complaining about thugs and then lusting after thugs at the same time. David Banner even said this, like, I think it was like back in like 2009, 2010, where he was like on BET Summit and he was like, y'all love to complain about you date the men you love to complain about. Something like that, paraphrasing. And he was basically talking about, the men that you all complain about are the men that you love to date. That's a better way of saying it. And he said that, again, over 10 years ago. And I don't know whether that went to the wayside or whether people didn't pay attention, but he called that out. And the other thing, that we discuss is, about women, avoiding, true patriarchal men or men with their resources. And I'm going to get to that in a second. Men with the resources because they want to be able to control the relationship because the black community has been operating in an ass backwards, fatherless home, matriarchal setup for quite some time. And a lot of black women have been passing down and teaching the idea that black women are supposed to run shit. And my whole thing is well, if you all are supposed to run shit, well, where is the room for black male correction? If you say that it needs to be corrected. And then see, this goes right into, me coming online and then the demands that ELs were making. Because I came online with primarily I'll say 4 complaints. Babies, which is the kids out of wedlock that black women were having, couldn't throw a rock without hitting a single mother. Weight, black women being too fat. Bad attitudes, the belligerents, that, we don't particularly care for. And the thug loving, which is going to tie back to the first one, which is the baby making. Those were the primary complaints, that I had. Okay. And there was the part about defending black men, that was also tied to the black men are dating outside of their race because they're self-hating. They hate their mothers because they don't care about the black woman or the black community, like because they're evil, because white women are weak and easy, all this sort of like rhetoric. It's just so sad, right? All that sort of rhetoric. And black women were asking, why are y'all dating out? Why are y'all dating out? Why are y'all dating out? Don't sit up in here and pretend like black women weren't asking that question. They were asking that question. And black men's response were basically, we get, treated better when it comes to dating other races of women. We get treated better. They're more cooperative. They're in shape. They're feminine, right? They don't have kids, right? All of these things, which would address, the four primary complaints, about black women. If you want a fifth one, you can throw in the weave thing, because a lot of brothers, didn't care for that. But I'll leave that one, out of it, right? So, we went with the four. Because brothers were not going out here and getting with other races of women that had all of those four major problems that black men identified. And didn't have those problems. Black men were not out here going, man, I can't stand black single mothers. Let me go out here and get with a white single mother. That's not what was going on. Oh man, I can't stand black women with nasty ass attitudes. Let me go out here and get with a white woman with a nasty attitude. I've heard black women say that. Latinas, have nasty attitudes, and we could say, yeah, okay, they have attitudes, but you know what the key difference is? The key difference is that they will stand down more readily than a black woman will stand down. And not only that, whenever you get into it with a Latina, you know, at the end of that argument, they're not trying to grab the steering wheel. Black women will try to grab the steering wheel because they believe that they're supposed to be in control and be in charge. And this goes back into the matriarchal situation. Fathers not being in the home for a course of generations. And, again, just because black men grow up in the same or similar environments to black women doesn't mean that we like the setup. It doesn't mean that we like the dynamic. You may have thought it was great growing up in a, female headed household and the matriarchy and all that other shit. A lot of black men didn't. And a lot of you all get, I don't know, this rhetoric, these ideas, these talking points from these black women who came before you, who try to act like it's so great in how you are, and you dismiss or ignore what the men are saying about what they don't like. And then you go out there and you literally try to sell men what they say that they don't like. It's like, yo, I don't like vinegar. I like honey. And here you are literally trying to pour vinegar down a man's mouth. Like, it's crazy. But, to really get to, the crux of this video, the really strong point that I wanted to make, in relationship to Lady Boulet's, the whole we want maids and all that. I didn't have the concept of in my head, of like when it came to black relationships, right? It was black men are in jail, too many black men are in jail. Not enough black men have their education. Not enough black men are making enough money, right? So I was I'm gonna go to college, graduate, get that job, get that career, and then, there would be Kerry Washingtons wrapped around the block. That's what a lot of our mothers sold us to try to keep us focused, keep us out of the streets, right? There would be Kerry Washingtons wrapped around the block. That did not happen. Hell, by the time many of us got out of college, I've talked about this before, many of these women already had kids and babies, and then we entered this phase of, boss bae, boss bitch. I got a bigger dingaling than you do, and it's like, yo, what is this? If the ratchet stuff wasn't enough, if the bone quishas, if that wasn't enough, and the chicks with the tattoos and the chicks with now it's the lace fronts and the snuffleupagus eyelashes and the Goku eyebrows and all that stuff. It was on the other end. You get away from the ratchet stuff. It was the boss chick stuff. Okay. Our concept was, and even, when I used to mentor black boys and talk to them about college, and the sad part is, a lot of them, there were no resources for them to go to college unless they got scholarships. Their families didn't do the right thing. And that's another thing, and then I'll get back on track, but there's a lot of black parents in poverty. I got a serious issue with black parents in poverty. Because I'm like, nah, why don't you tell him that he doesn't have a car coming, or she doesn't have a car coming when she turns 16? Why don't you tell him that? Why don't you tell them that you brought them up in a situation where, like, literally the whole world is stacked against them because you didn't want to exercise any sort of sexual discipline? Why don't you tell them that? Why don't you tell them that there's no resources? Why don't you tell them that there's no money for college, and even if he starts his first semester, he might have to drop out? Why don't you tell them that? I get real irritated, with a lot of black parents in poverty, and I know technically speaking you're not supposed to, but that shit used to irritate the fuck out of me because the kids are innocent, they don't know, they only know what they're being taught, and I can tell you straight up, black parents do not prepare their children, for the world, and there's a definite difference between the way that the boys are raised and the way that the girls are raised. The girls, it's you go girl, education, go to school, get your degrees, all that stuff, because the girls will do academically better, than the boys. But, they, again, we always treat the boys like they're defective girls. And, there's no discussion, there's no positive male identity for the boys to latch on to. And I'm not talking about them having a male figure, in the house. I'm talking about from a cultural standpoint. There is no concept of patriarchy in the black community. It's I mean, for any black woman to sit there and be like, "Oh, I have conversations about patriarchy with my," use a goddamn lie. That is a word that didn't even enter the vast majority of our vocabulary until we came online. At best, and this is just the reality. We thought go to school, get an education, provide a decent lifestyle, because that's what black women seem to have all these problems with all the Pookies and Ray Rays that they've been running around pumping babies out like it's going out of style, with, right? And they were bitching and complaining about that because the men would get locked up, go to jail, right? Not really even conceptualizing the fact that one of the main reasons these women were dealing with these guys is because they had money. So these women had no moral integrity when they were out there dealing with these guys. They had money. The women were dealing with these guys and popping out their babies and having some sort of ghetto fabulous fantasy about, what their future would be like. So many of us that went on the straight and narrow path, we literally thought we go out there, get the education, secure the job, provide a lifestyle, and that there would be some cooperative black woman waiting there ready to receive us. We were not thinking about power. See, that whole power conversation, that comes in with having the patriarchal conversation that nobody wants to have. Now, the women will argue at this point, well, the men need to have that conversation, with the boys. Yeah, but if you're not choosing the type of man that has that mentality, how would the boy ever get that conversation? If you're avoiding patriarchy, or you want to be in the dominant position, you want him to be in the subordinate position, right? If you're on some Aisha K. Faines type of shit, where would he learn that? On top of, if you don't believe it and you don't support it, right? You're just going to mark it as, sexism and misogyny, right? That's what you're going to throw up and say. And that's what pisses me off about a lot of the women. And again, these lack of honesty in these conversations, because as I've said numerous times, what a lot of black women ultimately want is they want black male responsibility that looks like white patriarchy, but devoid of leadership. You see, because the community is broken. And so because the community is broken, it allows them to come in and fuck with the dials and manipulate some shit. And see, oh, well, let's see if we can go in here and we can get the most out of the situation by contributing the least, right? We can get something for nothing, right? And you saw this on Kevin Samuel's show when these women would call up and they would talk about they don't want to pay substantial bills. And then when asked, okay, well, what is it that you're bringing to the table, right? Which is a very open-ended question. These women couldn't say anything. And oftentimes they were talking about they don't want to pay substantial bills and they already had a child by somebody else, which further reinforces the idea that, they they had no plans, of, being in a hold on, I'm losing my train of thought. Being in a truly traditional relationship where they actually, played their roles. Men are just, a utility to them, a tool, something to be used. And this is another area where black women don't want to be honest about it. They want to, play the victim, and they're just victims, and they're not manipulators. They're just victims in all of this, which is bullshit, you know. But anyway, black men, no, excuse me, black women, they asked the question, why are you all over the fence? We responded and said, because we're being treated, better by these other races of women. And then we said, if you want us to come back, you all are going to have to do, the things that we like. Lose the weight, lose the attitude, stop having babies by Dusties, and, then we could talk. Right. And black women countered that statement by saying, okay, well, if you all want all of that, well, you need to build us a community. That was the women's price. And, I can't shoot that down. You know what I mean? They countered with their price. They said, we want a community. Community is broken. We want a community. Now, I do take slight issue with some of the disingenuousness, in that. Like we want a community, but again, you have the women that are having babies by the guys in the community that they say are problematic, right? These black men, and they're violating us, and they're black men that are criminals, and they're killing each other in the community, and it's just not safe, and da da da. But yet, the very men that engage in criminal behavior never, have a shortage of women that they're surrounded by. A lot of the women, try to act like they're these, these like perfect angels, and they don't want to ignore, they want to ignore the fact that the, that the Ray Rays and Pookies have a female counterpart. We don't talk about the black female counterpart to Ray Ray and Pookie as though, she is a blight on the community. Right, unless we're talking about like welfare queens or something like that. But we don't really talk. We talk about her like she's a victim, because she's in proximity to Pookie. Not that she's on some bullshit herself. Not that she has a responsibility as the mother of these children and somebody who has final say on and reproductive control on, how these children come into the world, who they're fathered by, and those sort of important things that women do have control. We don't have that conversation. It's always, Pookie's just running around, the black community, rolling his window down, or driving around the black community doing drive-by ejaculations. And that's how black women got pregnant. I was walking to the library, and I got hit with a blast of semen, and that's how I became, a single mom. Like, no, stop the cap. But that's how they act. They like walked out the front door, slipped on a patch of ice, and landed on a dick. Like, stop the cap. But that's what these women will argue. I can honestly say that we were not focused on power when we came online. We were focused on lifestyles. That's what we were focused on. Being in the middle class or being in the upper middle class, comfortably in the middle class, to move out of the black community, notably, most likely move to a predominantly white community or a quasi, burb or area that was more mixed demographically, and that, the people in the ghetto were just going to have to sort it out. That was the mentality. It was not, and I, I don't blame, the men for thinking this way. The boys, two men, I don't blame them for thinking this way because, community responsibilities have to be taught at a community level. And nobody is having that conversation. I have mentored boys in the inner city, and if you talk to them and say, how many of you plan on going to college? They'll all raise their hand, even if there's no money to be had for them. They'll all raise their hand. And then when you say, um, how many of you intend on coming back to the black community and creating economic opportunities, right? Which is like the hardest thing to do in the world for other people in the community, right? Or working with each other, they look at you with straight bewilderment. These are not conversations that obviously their absentee black fathers are having with them, or their black fathers that also aren't focused on that, or black mothers are having with them, or black mothers who got with a black man who was the father of the boy, who he never even had that mindset. So even if he were to return and enter the boy's life, he doesn't have the mindset to teach the boy anything about community responsibility because he wasn't community focused. And that's another thing that irritates me with the way that black women always try to act and pretend like they're community focused. They're not community focused like that. It's just, and this is where things start looking like a busy assignment, starts looking like goalpost moving. Because like I said, and I've asked this question before, to women, and it's like, when it comes to, okay, they'll say, I'm not going to submit or get with the program until the community is fixed. And it's like, okay, first off, we already know, okay, what's the timeline on the community being fixed? Let's just say the community is not going to be fixed for the next 15 years. Let me just throw that number out there. 15, 20 years. Okay. So I guess you're going to be single this whole time. You're not going to start a family this whole time. Mind you, the dating window, like I said, is only about 15 years. You're going to be single that whole time. It's even smaller for women, but I'm saying you're going to be single that whole time, or are you going to date? Right. And see, this is where the women try to leverage the whole, well, the community is broken, so you have to sell your manhood at a discount and we got to operate on some 50-50 because she doesn't want to do any of the traditional things that, a woman's role would be. She doesn't want to do any of that. She doesn't want to acquiesce. She doesn't want to get with the program, so it just ends up being this circular argument of the community is broken, so I have to get with the program, and you have to accept me as I am, and I'm not going to live up to your standards or your criteria because you haven't fixed the community yet, right? And mind you, one of the biggest issues and one of the things that black women overlooked and that they didn't consider was that other races were going to literally open up gas stations across the street and start dishing out free gas. And this is part of the reason why a lot of black men don't feel like, they have to do anything. I mean, black men right now are caught in. I hate when I forget to charge my phone, but anyway, power is everything. But what was I saying? I was talking about black men being caught. Oh, like right now, I feel like black men are kind of, they're stuck. And, like I said, that whole 300, 400-year-old black man thing, it just doesn't hold up. And it's just like what you see with the economy right now, where, people are quitting their jobs. They want what was promised to them. They were promised the American dream. And internally, even within the black community, that is what black men were sold. They were sold, the lifestyle, and that if they achieved, to be able to provide for, the lifestyle, to become a working professional or maybe even have a small business, that they would have Kerry Washingtons wrapped around the block, and that they would, be able to go out here, date for a couple of years, 2 to 5 years, run through a bunch of bad bitches, basically do what street dudes are doing, but legitimately, and then eventually choose from one of those bad bitches that the man was fooling with. Some guys' numbers would be higher than others, and then they would settle down and start a family, and that family structure would look more traditional. But like the crazy thing is even when it comes to black men, like black men are some of the most liberal minded men that are out there. So like when I hear all these women talk about how terrible the black men are and how misogynistic they are and everything, other races of women do not feel that way. And like I said, it's a double-edged sword because oftentimes we do get the women who are running away from quote unquote extreme patriarchies within their own communities. They're running away from that. Truth be told, when you're dealing with a non-black woman who's dealing with you as a black man, and then we know what the racial hierarchies are, in the world, like she's already rebellious, right? Now, some of it might have to do with the way that black men are promoted, which in large part is due to street culture and is not due to anything that educated lames have promoted about themselves, right? So you have that area of overlap there. And again, many, educated lames fantasies, do have, street culture, street culture foundations, meaning, having the fly car, having the bad bitch, and, the only difference being that you're out here doing it legitimately, and again, you know, eventually get to a point where you settle down and, you got, the dream girl on your arm or as close to the dream girl as you could possibly think of. And, you're living this generally traditional lifestyle. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying about the other races of women, as I've already talked about in my previous video, a lot of black women are raising their sons to be with other races of women in trying to make things easier and more matriarchal, for the next generation of black women. But as I stated, when you got other races of women who literally opened up gas stations across the street and then they're giving their gas away for free, and on top of that, you have black boys that grow up in matriarchy and have a more, what do you want to call it? A more or a less strong stance on things like domestic chores, meaning like black men will help with laundry, help with dishes, help with cooking, those sorts of things. The other races of women eat that shit up. They eat that shit up, and a lot of black women's, attitudes towards that, as I said in my previous video, it's a different attitude. Like when black women are teaching their sons that there is no reciprocity. There is no help with the dishes because your black wife cooked you a meal. It's you need to learn how to clean up after yourself because ain't no woman gonna be picking up after you. Like that's how it's stated. It's not even that there's an exchange. It's not even that there's reciprocity. It's you need to do this to be more helpful to a black woman, which already highlights, if you really think about it, where they really think that we're gonna be anyway in relationship to them. It really highlights that you need to be the one doing all the domestic chores or helping out with the domestic chores because she's going to be more kick-ass than you. And these are the sorts of things that once you see them, you can't unsee them, and they do create a lot of resentment. Resentment against the black woman when it's like, oh, so you really do think that you're superior to me, which, as I've said before, it's like it almost doesn't make sense because it's like, okay, if you think that you're better than us, then why are black women so hard pressed when it comes to black men being with them and choosing them? If you think that, you're better than us, what are we to you? And then we already know what the answer to that is: sperm donors and walking phalluses. And you know what the sad part is? There's a lot of black men that seemingly, are got comfortable with that. Now, I don't know what's going on, with the new generation, but I can say that, based on Captain Solo's testament, there are a lot of black men, that a lot of Gen X guys, they were comfortable with that. And they played that role. And the situations and the neighborhoods and the households look like the movie Baby Boy. But unfortunately, these sort of belief systems have spilled onto the next generation of millennials and zillennials before guys have even gotten there to even to basically show what they're about. It's just assumed. It's assumed that you're going to play some subordinate position. It's assumed that you're not a go-getter. It's assumed that, that you'll just let her talk to you any type of way, and that you're going to be in a compromised subordinate position. It's assumed. And I don't know how that sits with a lot of brothers, but this is why black men have to be, serious about, correcting this shit ass reputation. I'm saying, you may not have created it, right? But unfortunately, some of the men in the generation before, these are the stereotypes that got out there because, and again, I don't know what the number was, but there were too many men that, basically were out here and they were trying to get over. And that's what they did. They figured, oh man, I'm getting over. Yeah, not realizing the reputation, that they have built for themselves. And so now, as younger generations or relatively younger generations, in my case, this is the shit that we have to contend with. You see, and unfortunately, at this point, and this goes even to like the Six the Goddess thing, that I saw with this latest video that she posted where she's addressing people, she's addressing Antoine, she's addressing this chaotic. I don't even know who this dude is. All I heard is a clip in there where, because it's a 4-hour show, and all I heard was a clip in there where she's talking about how or this dude is talking about how he could find better looking women at Chick-fil-A. Like, where the hell is the better looking woman, the better looking woman than Six the Goddess that works at Chick-fil-A? Like, where the fuck is this going on? What Chick-fil-A? Where is this Chick-fil-A? You know what I'm saying? Like, and see, the whole thing, I keep saying it, it's like motherfuckers cannot just acknowledge beauty and move on. And I'm saying, you can say what you want, Six the Goddess, it shouldn't even have to be argued, or defended, how attractive she is or whether she's attractive. I'm saying Six the Goddess arguably is in the category of, I mean, the category of some of the best looking black women that the black community has to offer. And I'm like, and if you're over there shooting that down because we got a bunch of men, and this is another problem, this whole revenge of the nerds, and I know that I'm dealing with revenge of the nerds when I'm dealing with black men that don't have any bass in their voice, right? Because I'm sorry, but you're not going to get any pussy in the black community without having any bass in your voice. But they do this whole, cathartic release, revenge of the nerds, getting off, this whole industrial complex that has been built around putting attractive black women in their place, right? All because these guys are mad because, they didn't get any women, they didn't have any game, they were given the wrong information. And so, they're mad and they come online and they just can't see beyond, their anger and their resentment. And so even if a black woman has a channel, and let's say she agrees with black men 75% of the time, guarantee you these guys will go in there and fuck it up. They'll go in there and start attacking. No, she's a stripper. You know what I mean? Like they'll just go in there and start fucking it up. Same thing with same crap. I mean, black men do it to each other. I mean, same thing happened with Kevin Samuels. You know what I mean? He's gay. We think he's gay. He's got some sweet ass mannerisms, which Kevin did have. You know what I mean? But as I said in the video that I made, that Kev actually gave me a shout out to, I'm like, um, what does it have to do with his overall message? You start getting into these anti-intellectual areas of conversation when people start doing that. And for me, it's extremely frustrating because I'm like, you have somebody who's an ally. People, oh, this is a fake ally. So the fuck what? I'm saying if she's making the talking points, okay, if she's exposing, or even if whatever, even if it's a balanced approach. I'm saying if she's exposing the stupidity and a lot of the bullshit the women do, right? Then what is the problem? You know what I'm saying? Like your victory is in her, calling out the women on the bullshit that we know is blatantly egregious. And here you have an attractive woman saying that this is the bullshit that women do, and those women have nowhere to run to. Because here you got an attractive woman who has had, plenty of experience attracting men, breaking down what the deal is. And these idiots go over there attacking her. And I'm like, yeah, y'all just so stupid with it. Just stupid with it. Even this whole just pearly things, and even with Antoine, I told you, I don't fuck with Antoine. Antoine comes off to me as a white apologist, and I know I'm getting slightly off topic, but I'm saying, this whole thing where, what's the chick's name? Courtney Nicole, whatever her name is, the whole, I'm gonna side with the white woman I don't really know, and go up against, a black woman, to throw a black woman underneath the bus, somebody that I had a relationship with. Like, that's not a good look. But by the same token, and I gotta criticize Six the Goddess for this, because she does certain things that are typical of black women, like, having the agreement with Antoine that she would, contact him if they had an agreement before, or if they had a disagreement before she made a video. And she just goes, well, well, I didn't feel I needed to respect him because he did X, Y, and Z, and so you broke the contract. I'm like, no, that's not how you do things if you want to talk about, I'm a person of integrity. And then there was another clip that she had where a woman that was a divester called in the show, and she said she was a virgin, and then Six the Goddess went off about, oh, you suck dick, you sucking dick. And I'm like, oh God, like, what are you doing? That wasn't some cool shit to do. I don't know why people just can't keep it where it needs to be, but I'm just saying, just to be, you know, fair and equitable about the shit. I'm like, Six has to work on that. It's not like everything Six says is perfect and wonderful and everything. I just don't understand, why the dudes go out of their way to attack a woman that is actually spends most of her time checking and addressing other women. Now, why did I even go in that topic? Well, I forget why I went in the topic. Oh, I remember why. And this is where the bullshit comes in with the men and the women. But I'm gonna start with the men because I could briefly talk on the women. I think that the women move the goalposts and they throw up all this shit because at the end of the day they really don't want to get with, the program, right? Even if black men fixed as much as they could fix, it would still be them moving the goalposts, right? You don't have all the infinity stones yet. I can't submit to you. You know what I mean? Like it'll still be that coming from a lot of women because I believe that black women have a superiority complex over black men. With that said, when it comes to black men, and I'm like, I hate to say it, but y'all are proving it with the way that, dudes are just saying shit that is patently false, which is Six the Goddess is not an attractive woman. And I'm like, this is one of the best that the black community has to offer. And I mean that in a very general sense. Okay. If the what do you want to call it? Whether it's the silhouette or the archetype of Sixta Goddess, or even Danica for that matter. If the majority of the black community look like that, I wouldn't have a problem. I wouldn't have a problem. Okay, we could move right past the looks. They all look good. I don't have a problem. Okay, and then we all you have to talk about is the kids and the attitudes and all that stuff, right? But I'm saying it's like if you're attacking Sixta Goddess and you're attacking her looks, right, as a black man, I just can't buy into the idea. Oh man, see if they lost the weight and they look good and they wore makeup and they dolled themselves up, you know what I'm saying? We build a community for that. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. And you wouldn't primarily because right now you're getting your gas for free from other races of men. And you know what the sad part is about pursuing lifestyles and not power? You know what the sad part is? Because if you're pursuing lifestyles, that means you don't control the economic opportunities. And if you don't control the economic opportunities, the lifestyles that you're offering these women or the lifestyles that you're getting away with providing to these women when you're, taking these women that are the fruits of another man's patriarchy, you know, all the other races of men have to do is shut off that faucet, and now you can't provide them with the lifestyle. This is the whole premise of the system of white supremacy and denying black men economic opportunities. Trust and believe. A lot of white men know, I'd argue most white men know, that if black men, had the same level of economic stability as your upper echelon white men, they would be stealing a whole bunch of white women. They know that. There's been plenty of examples. I think there was a show on Oprah like back in the 90s or the 80s where there was it might not have been Oprah, but Cap always references this, where the white guy was up there talking about black men and their ability to dance and the riz and the swag and all that other stuff, right? Because white men don't develop those skills. Now, if you ask me, if the black community was more intact, black men would have less skills, just like all other races of men have less skills, because they're more focused on power. That's why they run around, with the, do you know who my father is? I come from such and such a pedigree. They don't develop game and skills like black men do. Game is for men who have to use the gift of the gab because they don't have the other financial resources in order to attract women. So they have to run their mouthpiece. And when you run your mouthpiece a lot, because you don't have a whole bunch to offer, you can't develop those skills. It's just like being a salesman. Okay? And so, that is what a lot of black men have over other races of men. And then if you threw money at that, then, black men would be, they would be quote unquote unstoppable. But when you don't control the economic opportunities and then you're running around arrogant and cocky and you're just showing up all over the globe with passport bros and I'm here to pick up one of your women. Where is my bride? Right? I'm like, if you think that they're going to tolerate that shit indefinitely, you got another thought coming. Now, maybe white American men may not care as long as you're not fucking with their women, and you're going abroad and you're going to, South America and you're going to Asia and shit like that. They may not give a shit about that. Hell, some of them might even encourage it, going back to reparations for slavery, because guess what? We don't owe reparations for slavery to a bunch of half-breeds and mixed breeds. Guarantee that's going to be the argument. Well, I mean, you're half Filipino. What do we need to give you reparations for slavery for? So again, the muhaha smart white people are like, oh, please, passport bro it up. Breed yourselves out, because then we don't have to talk about dealing with, black people. But again, I know the reality that the interracial numbers are not crazy and ridiculous like that. But I mean, where things are going is worse than when I first came online. Things have gotten worse because the black community has basically talked itself to death. I mean, literally talked itself to death. And many people have come online and they have said things that they can't take back. This is why everybody's turning against Obsidian. With his, he wants to grift so hard. You know what I mean? That it's like, dude, you ain't learned. You do not go up against your other people with you do not go against your own people with other people. You don't do that. And he just, oh, I'm gonna grift, same with, O'Shea, like I mean, they're using all type of mental gymnastics, downplaying all that stuff. I'm like, you should have just cut ties and kept it moving. I didn't know she was on this shit. I don't co-sign that. Pearl, what you said is foul, and kept it the fuck moving. But niggas want to come out and they want to do a whole bunch of splaining because they trying to get that bag. You see, and so we are, we're really fucked up. We're really fucked up, and I don't see black men getting off their ass to do anything. Not while all this free gas is being dished out. The free gas, and them coming with their, domestic skills and their what do you want to call it? Um, their non-ultra uber patriarchy, because a lot of black men, they don't have that. That's why I swear I always look at black women like they're crazy when they start bitching about how terrible black men are and whatnot. I'm like, black men are the most laid back, chill men on the planet. Oh, again, arguably, when it comes to certain things, too chill, too relaxed. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, y'all just want to, you just, again, not knowing where the edge is, you want to bash black men so bad, even in areas where it doesn't apply, and then completely ignore, what these other women are, coming over here for, giving out free gas. Because a lot of them, hey, as long as you can provide the lifestyle that they're accustomed to, they are game. They are game. And many of them, they may not even want to particularly participate, in their own community. I have seen that too. But 9 times out of 10, they're going to go get with a brother that has the resources to provide a lifestyle that they are either accustomed to or greater, move to a predominantly white suburb, have their little mixed family and mixed kids, and basically, live the white suburban lifestyle, but with a black man. And that's what they're going to do. And although I do get a lot of black women's grievances about certain things, like, when it comes to, self-hate growing faster in the suburbs because it's not an environment that is predominantly black, and, us being phenotypically unique, that unfortunately presents a problem when it comes to teasing and, racism and all that other shit. We do need to have, our own space, not just for, business purposes and financially, but also, from a psychological and emotional standpoint. And that kind of leads me to another thing about, everything is changing so rapidly. I don't know if the brick and mortar model of a community is feasible anymore. And you see this even within the white community, as I've been pointing out over the course of a number of videos that I've done in relationship to, how, the Wonder Years type of community, that shit has collapsed. I mean, bottom line, housing prices through the roof. They don't, the white oligarchy doesn't want to even pay young white men to get their lives started. I mean, we are on the precipice of, a revolution, in my opinion. It's just a matter of time, as things get progressively worse. And it's always going to be, that generation, that is just coming of age, that has not been able to spread its wings because everything just, collapsed. But they also were sold a bag of goods and sold a whole bunch of promises that they're, not able to, what's the word that I'm looking for? Not manifest, but they're not able to, you know, uh, you know, watch blossom or grow. And so that's going to be a problem as they can, get, more and more agitated. That's why you're seeing more and more white nationalism, more and more white supremacy, more and more militias, more and more, we want Trump back in office. I mean, that's why you're seeing all these sorts of things. Okay, so plus you throw up all the goofy shit that the left is doing with gender and freaking, all this stuff that white men just see as an alienation of themselves, even though they're longstanding issues that, predate them. Things like, reparations for slavery. But, I'm just saying this is where we are. I don't have a solution. I do not believe black women when they say, "Oh, if you build it, will come." I don't believe that. I don't believe they would get with the program. I have seen enough of the, we want power. Women going out here and intentionally getting with subordinate dudes so that they can call shots in a relationship. I have seen enough of that to know that it's a busy assignment. This is where you get into the, y'all need to win a race war. You win a race war, and then we'll get with the some unachievable shit within one lifetime. So they'll throw that up, but then again, by the same token, you got a lot of black men that, uh, you know, I'm like, if Six the Goddess doesn't, if the if the archetype of Six the Goddess isn't good enough, I'm like, dude, you ain't no amount of pussy gonna make you go out there and build. Because truth be told, I'm saying pussy is not enough for community building. It is a whole bunch of backbreaking work. It is a whole bunch of late nights and grinding and all that. It's a whole bunch of that. And then to have women in the background, talking about, you can't even bring them out a glass of lemonade. I mean, it's just crazy. It's like nobody wants to do anything. They just, black men, hey, I'm over here with the fat ass Latina, getting this shit for free. Right. And then, black women, we're just going to indefinitely move the goalposts because we really don't want to be subject to y'all rule anyway. So fuck that shit. Let it be broken. Let it stay broken. But we will charge you with the responsibility despite the fact that we don't really want it fixed. Because if it's going to be fixed and it's going to be fixed on your terms, well, then we don't want it. You see, because now you get to come in, with the, anytime a woman is doing something that men generally don't like, it's not you can't say anything about this. It's what was I about to say? I'm going blank again. Damn, I totally went blank. I think I was going to say, who are you to dictate the terms? You see? And see, that's the whole beauty about, why these women, a lot of times they choose Pookie, because Pookie doesn't put stipulations on shit. You know what I'm saying? Pookie, and that's another thing, because I remember when Cap threw this, he threw this question out. It's like, yeah, but how many of y'all really trying to do things like how Pookie does things? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know they show shit in the movies and everything, but it's not really how it is. Like, Pookie ain't getting matching bra and underwear. Pookie ain't getting chicks walking around in open-toed shoes and heels and shit. Pookie ain't getting fishnet lace stockings. Pookie ain't getting that. You know what I mean? Pookie is getting gutter pussy. Pookie is getting, the chick got her stomach. Yeah, she got a fat ass, but she also got a stomach. That's what Pookie's getting. Pookie's getting dealing with another dude's kids. Yes, but see, Pookie, he doesn't care about running the show. He doesn't care about, what she's got going on, what she's doing, what she wants to do. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't care about that. What she's wearing. He don't care. He's Pookie. He's there to hit it and quit it. That's what he's there for. Just like this recent video that Pink Book Lessons did about Asian Doll. And all the silly shit that she was saying, about, she just want a nigga to just, basically get in there and get out. And a bunch of Pookies responded and said, yeah, we've been saying that. That's all the fuck we want to do, bitch. You know what I mean? So they responded, basically saying, yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, but see, the thing is that what educated lames are really out here trying to do? Even when we want to smash, you know what I'm saying? Like, we still want to do that shit, in a classy way. We still want, you know, all appearances to look like, this is really heading somewhere, even if it's not. I mean, seriously speaking. And I'm saying I got to be careful about saying that, because there are some women who, they like to get down like that, and then there's other women who don't, and it's going to look like you're just trying to waste their time. You know what I mean? But people don't put that past me. Like the fact that, most people, they do sexually experiment. Most people, do casually date, and it's like, they want to be taken to a nice dinner and get their back blown out just as much as you want to blow a back out. You know what I mean? That goes on even with black people who are not on some gutter shit. Don't let anybody sit up in here and act like it's not like, if black people, if a black man and a black woman got two nickels to rub together, that it's got to be, some freaking Massachusetts Puritan type of courting going on. That's cap. That's cap. But the point that I'm making is that a lot of the ways in which Pookie is getting it is not the way in which, educated lanes would actually want it or tolerate it. But you got to remember, he's not putting demands on her. He's not saying, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to lose weight, you can't come with me with this, check your attitude and all this other stuff. Right? And even if he does say that, he's not in a position to really get the results that he wants from her. And that's why sometimes even they'll get into it with these women. It's like, dude, you're not in a position to sit there and put demands and stipulations on her. And again, a lot of women will deal with men like that because they don't want, stipulations and rules and regulations and having to meet your expectations, and for you to be in a position to justify it. To be like, hey, chick, I'm paying for all this. What are you doing? What are you doing? They don't want to deal with that. So they rather deal with, the Dusty or Pookie, because, there's always a flaw there. His money's illegal, or he doesn't have any money, right? Or he doesn't, everything goes down at her place. It never goes down at his place, because he doesn't have a place. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on, and she can justify all her raggedy ass shit in being with him and still getting her back blown out. You see? But, again, everything's happening at the speed of light. Men, ELs are now, they've wised up to the reality that, some of these women, they go out there and just like Asian Doll said, they go out there having fun, doing what they want. And then, I mean, she's only 26, but I guarantee you when she's 34, she ain't going to be singing the same tune. She's going to be like, where's my knight in shining armor? Where's my hero? Where these men are educated, I need a man with a career. She gonna be talking different. She ain't gonna be talking that King Von shit. When them real, adult responsibilities raising children hit, she's gonna be talking a different tune. They all do. It's because especially when you bring children in the world, that's when shit gets real. That's when you need stability and dependability and reliability. You know, why do you think people go out there and they buy Toyotas? You know, they don't buy it because of the styling, although I do think the new Toyota Crown looks good, but I'm just saying. I mean, they don't buy it because, it's a sports car. They buy it because it'll take you to 200,000 miles with very few problems. That's what you need when you have a family and you're raising children. But these women really are not interested in doing, you know, catering to the demands of educated lames. And by the same token, the educated lames are, while they're getting all this free gas, from other races of women, they're not interested in community building. And, that is just really, really unfortunate. And I'm embarrassed to even, I'm, as a black man, I'm embarrassed by that shit. I'm like, really? Really? You gonna let all this? Oh, yeah, man, we getting free gas. I'm like, but we still don't control anything. That's a problem, regardless of, whatever is going on with black women. Black women are not. I'm like, we don't control anything. If the faucets can be turned off, and then we just gonna be sitting here, what, looking at each other, staring at each other, going, oh, it's a damn shame. I can't eat. Nah, that's fucked up. That's really fucked up. But I'm just saying I don't have any solutions. I'm just pointing out, where we are right now. And unfortunately, looking at the comments, I'd love to just write them off as, these are just the idiots, you know what I mean? But it's like, just like with the women, it's like you'll have one woman make a video, but then I'm paying attention to the fact that there's, you know, 2,700 likes or some shit like that. You know what I mean? And that's just the likes. And then when you go in the comment section, a whole bunch of women co-signing. And the same thing applies to the men. I'm like, yeah, you say, oh, that's just one dude. Yeah, but look at how many other dudes are co-signing it. If you don't believe me, go look at that post that I just did, because I laid out many of the same talking points that I did in this video. Go read that post on my community tab. The first one where you see Six the Goddess, scrolling down from the top. And you'll see dudes right in there, talking about, oh, you need to go holler at her, Pete, or they in there talking about, you need to stop thirsting and all this other. Like, it's not about thirst. Y'all motherfuckers can't even acknowledge she's a good looking woman. Move on, say, hey, I disagree with her, but yeah, Six is attractive. She's a good looking woman, and move the fuck on. Oh, nigga, you're trying to police my dick. See how the stupid shit comes up? And like I said in the post, I'm like, if Six is just nothing, and, I don't particularly think that, a lot of women out here are looking like Six or even remotely close. And I'm like, if you're shooting this down and this ain't shit, I'm like, y'all ain't, again, aside from the fact that you really can't, women's beauty and pussy is not enough to go out there and build. I'm like, aside from that, I'm like, you're not going to build for anything lesser. I don't care how much shit anybody talks about. Oh man, this chick ain't this and this chick ain't that. It's like, motherfucker, you ain't been with better. I'm like fucking 90% of black dudes out here ain't been with a chick that, looks better than Six the Goddess. Quiet as is kept. I mean, if Six the Goddess was walking through the airport, Six the Goddess is turning heads from everybody, from all races. They're like, oh my God. And I'm saying, even if she was shorter, they would still be like, oh my God. They would still look. But y'all want to come in here with this cap. And I'm like, the eagerness to come with the cap is the same. I'm like, yeah, y'all motherfuckers ain't gonna get off your asses to do shit. You're gonna be every time I go over there and try to, point to something that needs to be done or identify something, and we get to talking about it. All it's going to come down to is, man, but why I got to do all that, man? I'm over here getting my dick sucked and my balls licked, and because I'm over here with this Latina. That's what's going to be said, right? Because here you got an educated lame. Okay, you work for some big pharmaceutical company. You work for Merck, and you making hella good money. And you can every weekend y'all can go out and go salsa dance, and you drive a nice car, and she thinks you're the fucking man and all this other shit because her brothers work at, I don't know, in construction or some shit like that, as just the workers. You know what I mean? And so she's like, "Oh, I got me this white collar black man, and I'm this and I'm that," and she's focused more on the lifestyle, right? And you can do that, and you can go all the way up to marrying the broad. Meanwhile, sisters are going, I'm not impressed, like, and again, I don't entirely blame them for that. But I'm just like, God damn, I'm like, you don't even have a starting point at this point. And like I said, I think, when it really comes down to it, I'm like, even if the dude was community focused, like, number one, you don't want that to cut into your lifestyle. You would very briskly tell him he don't need to do that. But then at the same time, you know, you ain't trying to get with that man's program anyway. You want to have a servile situation where the black man is providing a lifestyle for you, and it doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to lose weight. You don't have to drop the attitude. You can come to him with somebody else's kids, and you don't have to doll yourself up. And he's just, basically a walking ATM. And he's respecting divine female principles, and he's not putting any demands on you. I mean, it would just literally be like, again, it's like it's black women trying to get a Ray Ray and Pookie drug dealing situation, but from a legitimate dude. Well, when I was with the drug dealer, you know what I'm saying? He would just break me off $300 just like that. See, the problem is you cheap. No, the problem is I actually have to work for my money and spend hours of my life to get this money. Not saying that I'm not generous, but I'm like, this is what a man has to do that's legitimate. No, it's not going to be the same as being with an illegitimate dude. And they'll be like, that's why I need to be with those dudes. Yeah, and that's all cool until you have the baby with the dude, and the dude tells you, that's on you, and he ain't doing this and doing that when he breaks up with you because he's out there, fucking some other bitch, or whatever reason you all break up. So, and then you're online talking about these niggas ain't shit. These niggas ain't shit. And then you turn around, and that's why we don't respect you, educated lame motherfucker. What are you gonna do about my baby daddy? He ain't done nothing for us. You need to go handle that. Like, what? And that's what it's gonna turn into. But anyway, I've made my points. That's all I gotta say. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.